Jean-Baptiste Pointe DuSable Drive. Jean-Baptiste Pointe DuSable Drive.
Good evening, Chicago. Good citizens of Chicago. Well, they did it. They officially changed the name of Lakeshore Drive to Jean-Baptiste Pointe DuSable Drive. We're going to talk about it a little bit tonight because I know my opinion is a serious hot take that not a lot of people agree with. And I'm not going to waste too much time on it because we reported on this, I reported on this way back when it was first introduced and passed. And I just feel like someone needs to go out at night with a can of green spray paint and some masking tape because how do I put this? I never imagined I heard myself saying these words. This is nothing but virtue signaling regarding identity politics from our alder people. Because if they really wanted to do something important with their time and spend the city's money properly, they should have fought more to reopen the mental health clinics. They should be investing in neighborhood infrastructure. This was nothing but a distraction from other inaction and important actual change, I think, across our city. And when you consider the millions spent to change a name that can go into neighborhoods, I'm sorry, I say it's pandering and it's identity politic virtue signaling that of which could have the time could have been spent much better ways elsewhere to actually improve the neighborhoods. They spent years to put this thing in while neighborhoods suffered. Money wasn't put into programs and places that it should have been. And I also think that a lot of these alder people who were for this is as much about their own self-aggrandizement as it is honoring Jean-Baptiste Pointe DuSable, who I have no problem honoring at all. But if you want to make a statement, why not rename Columbus Drive? Get rid of the memory of that genocidal maniac and put Jean-Baptiste Pointe DuSable's name on that street. You want to divide the city by taking Lakeshore Drive, a street that borders the lake, that was sung about by Eliota, Haynes, and Jeremiah, as I just opened the show with. It's a city that unites the city from north to south, south to north. It's not about race. Lakeshore Drive is a street for everybody. And I think that this was seized upon by some alder people to virtue signal the identity politics. I know I'm going to piss a lot of you off saying that. I'm sorry. It's just my opinion. I think everybody who knows me knows I'm not a racist. It's not about Jean-Baptiste Pointe DuSable's race. This is about making an issue out of something that should have never been an issue. And Lakeshore Drive should have been kept intact. And all that money spent to change all of these street signs could have been better spent elsewhere. So let me quickly, you know what? Let's watch the video because there's a little bit of video with this event as it unfolded. And I'll share that with you here. Let's play it just for a little bit. Then I'll read from the story.
All right. So welcome everyone. It's a beautiful day in spite of a few clouds, but they say the clouds bring the best pictures, so it'll be memorialized as even a more beautiful day. But I just wanted to first start off by thanking a few folks for getting us to this day. We wouldn't be here without my colleague, Alderman David Moore, over here.
He was the one.
So much respect.
He's always going to be known for this because this was his pet project. I've also heard from people in his ward they're not that thrilled that he's not paying attention to more serious priorities in that ward than this little pet project.
Alderman Moore, for your leadership here, for recognizing what's important and what we choose to celebrate. Thank you so much for your leadership. I appreciate that. Also want to thank Black Heroes Matters Coalition. Thank you for your leadership, for persevering, for every committee that you spoke.
You know, Black leaders do matter, but why do we have to rename streets that are supposed to unite everybody? Just asking. With all the other streets in the city that should be renamed.
Spoke out on it all meant the world to us. Thank you for that as well. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership here.
Who opposed it originally? Let's not forget, Mayor Lightfoot opposed it.
We wouldn't be here without you as well. Commissioner Biaggi, thank you again.
Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get over to Mayor Lightfoot's statement.
You were called on to talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Alderman King. And I think Sophia's got it exactly right. We needed to find a way to honor our founder.
Did we? There's a park named after him. There's a museum named after him. Okay, so I guess I'm just showing my age here, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no Willis Tower. There's the Sears Tower. As far as I'm concerned, Cellular Field, whatever it's called now for the Sox, that's Comiskey Park. Macy's, Marshall Fields. I don't know. I guess I'm just I don't want to sound like a boomer here, because I'm certainly not a boomer, but I guess the traditions of what we know of Chicago to be changed and co-opted for other agendas, it just bugs me. I just don't think I don't think it's sincere. I don't think that it's I just think that it's kind of self-serving, but.
And in the long process that took us to get to this point, we took a lot of steps, a lot of journeys. We learned a lot, I think, about each other, about our history.
Oh, yeah.
But what we also learned about is how to come together. We took steps in each other's direction to get to, I think, this important place. So we're here today to celebrate. We're here today.
I was all over social media following this when it was happening. I didn't, those that did not want to see Lakeshore Drive renamed were far more the majority. And if they were that concerned, or if they really thought that this was a good idea, they could have put it up for referendum during the next election. I don't know. I mean, give everybody a choice to vote on it, but nah, the older people just get what they want.
To officially unveil the new John Baptiste Pointe DuSable Lakeshore Drive highway signs.
I would call it DuSable Drive.
So let's thank Alderman David Moore.
Yeah, he's the guilty party. Anyway, all right, so I'm going to move on from this story. Well, let me quote from Block Club Chicago really quickly just to wrap all this up. This came to us from Kelly Bauer. And hey, you're welcome to disagree with me in the live chat. I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm just expressing my opinion on this. I just feel that I don't know, time could have been spent better elsewhere. The signs were unveiled at a Thursday ceremony at Buckingham Fountain with Alderman Sophia King and David Moore, who pushed for the ordinance that renamed Chicago's famous Lakeside Street. They'll be put up over the next few days, officials said. Mayor Lori Lightfoot also celebrated at the unveiling, though she fought hard to prevent the street being renamed for DuSable. I think it's DuSable, but she said she still plans to build out a park for DuSable, and I'll go back to DuSable the way she pronounced it, and create a memorial for him along the Riverwalk. We needed to find a way to honor our founder, and in the long process that took us to get to this point, we took a lot of steps, a lot of journeys. We took steps in each other's direction to get to this important place. Now, forevermore, people will know the name of DuSable. I knew DuSable before they renamed Lakeshore Drive, but maybe I was just taught my history better about Chicago. Lightfoot said the city is proud to rename the street after DuSable, and the renaming honors the contribution of Black residents to Chicago's history. The name change affects about 18 miles of outer Lakeshore Drive from Hollywood Avenue to East 67th Street. City Council voted to approve the name change June 25th after months of back and forth between Alderman and Lightfoot. The name change comes as people have sought ways to honor Black historical figures like DuSable. By telling the story of our founder on this highway, who's paying attention to his story while they're driving on a highway? Instead of like confusing people from out of town who would probably know Lakeshore Drive and you're giving them directions, and they're seeing these signs wondering, where the hell am I going? We're further unifying our city and residents in a moment of racial and historical reckoning, Lightfoot said. Never again will the contributions of this man be forgotten, and more to come. Hey, why don't you bang the Fraternal Order of Police over the head instead to honor the Black residents in Chicago who are constantly abused, violated by the Fraternal Order of Police, who we're going to get to in a little moment also. Who think they're above the rules and while they terrorize people of color in our neighborhoods. We're an incredible city founded by a Black man and his indigenous wife. We should be very proud of this legacy. We are, and never forget it and honor it and revere it from this point forward. Okay. All right, Mayor Lightfoot. Moore, speaking at the ceremony, said he started his crusade to rename Lakeshore Drive after being troubled hearing a tour guide talk about Chicago's white historical figures like Al Capone without mentioning DuSable. Would you want DuSable mentioned when you're talking about Al Capone? I mean, I understand his point, but, you know, the city's got a pretty deep history in crime, and especially during Prohibition and the gangster days. I don't think anybody meant to diss DuSable when they're talking about Al Capone, but this way it opens the door for everybody to learn. If we can take this drive down, bringing everyone together from north to south, to east to west, to celebrate a man who was about bringing people together, Moore said, urging people to look at the buildings downtown. He said that's because of the foundation of John Baptiste Pointe DuSable. Okay. While we still have other genocidal maniacs with streets named after them. Although I'm glad they took down the Columbus statues. This summer, critics of the change said residents didn't want to change their address or were worried about getting rid of the iconic Lakeshore Drive name. Some said aldermen should focus on other issues like Chicago's recovery after the pandemic or the city's spike in shootings and murders. Wouldn't that be a nice way to honor the founder of our city by making things better instead of this pandering gesture, spending millions of dollars to put up street signs like this? Lightfoot proposed other ways of honoring DuSable, including building out DuSable Park, hosting a festival in his honor, and naming the Riverwalk for him. There was also a push to rename Millennium Park for DuSable. I wouldn't have argued with that. But supporters of the renaming, like Moore, remember this was his crusade, while his ward is left in utter shambles, who had fought for the change since 2019, ultimately prevailed. In addition to the school and a DuSable Museum of African American History in Hyde Park, a small monument to DuSable sits near the DuSable Bridge on Michigan Avenue. It's a beautiful drive. All right, so I would like to go into the live chat as I finish or wrap up my grouchiness over that story. Let's see what some of you think. I'm going to scroll back here. Let's see here. And I'm sorry, E. Heller, not to me. But thank you for parsing. There is historical importance of DuSable, and yes, people of Chicago should be learning about him. Yeah, they should. I just don't know that naming the street is going to spark all kinds of conversation during the drives up and down. Well, people should be looking at the lakefront. The DuSable Museum can be interesting to walk through, by the way. It is. It is. Renaming Columbus would have had its own protesters. Yeah, it would have, but good. Because Columbus didn't even discover America, for Christ's sakes. And we know his history as we've gone to rename Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day, as it should be renamed, I think. Let's see here. Scrolling down. Andrew Golick, a name is just image control. Doing action is far more important. I think that's where I'm coming from on this. A DuSable clinic mimicking Maya's expertise that's fee-free would be a fitting memorial for the explorer risk-taker. Could the Daily Family get renamed? Comedy gets lost in the text sometimes. All right. Well, let me just check a few more of the comments here. before I hope I'm not chasing or scaring away viewers because of my opinion on this. I doubt most of the kids going to DuSable High School know that history. If that's true, that would be very, very sad. I would imagine that most kids going to their high schools would know about the history of the high school's namesakes, but that's a failure of the educational system, I think. All right. Anyway, so I've made my point about that, and yeah, I was poking some fun at it with the music video that I edited that I shared months ago, and vandalizing our Chicago corner sign in the show icon tonight. But moving on, let's go to our next story, which is, all right. So here's some good news. I feel I'm going to give some credit where it's due. I hope, if things actually transpire in the way that they should. We actually reported on Tuesday regarding Lightfoot and her Allison Arwady, her medical. I don't know what is her title. Arwady's title there. And we actually posted the show segment today on the fact that they were both against reopening of mental health clinics. A lot of progressive aldermen in the city were asking for some of this windfall money that's coming from the federal government for COVID and pandemic relief to go towards reopening several of the closed mental health clinics. Well, interestingly enough, this afternoon, some news broke. I originally saw it through the Twitter feed of Heather Sharon of WTTW, and I want to thank E. Heller for bringing this to my attention. Let me go to what Heather Sharon shared. The City Council's Budget Committee has approved plans to use funds from federal relief package to cover the cost of providing city services during 2020 and 2021, canceling plans to borrow $500 million and to repay $465 million in short-term debt to fill shortfalls created by COVID-19. Now, Dr. Allison Arwady is detailing plans to add 29 positions to the city's public mental health clinics and expand evening hours. Now, this isn't reopening the closed clinics, which is what we were critical about the other night. But I guess we have to take it where we can, right? It's not a bad thing. I just hope that adding 29 positions to the city's public mental health clinics doesn't involve the ability to kick back some of that money to private organizations or private businesses, as opposed to just reopening the clinics that are closed in neighborhoods that sorely need them. Also added to the budget, more funds for homeless outreach services through the Department of Family and Support Services, more funds for outreach by Animal Care and Control, and more funds to add tree trimming crews. All right, this is all good news, and I applaud City Council and Mayor Lightfoot for this, should it all come to pass. It was approved 27-5. Voting no were Quinn, O'Shea, Tabaris, Sposato, and Riley. I don't know what their problems were, but that's how the vote went down. Now, Alderman Harry Osterman had some comments before we go into the article from Block Club Chicago. What he said was he will be voting in support as it will provide critical and significant investments towards urgently needed housing and social services, supporting Chicagoans and communities deeply impacted by COVID-19 and decades of inequitable investment and systems. Cheers, Alderman Osterman. I agree. Some highlights. This budget will provide over $240 million in additional resources for affordable housing. The investments made in housing are historic and set a standard for the way in which our city should invest in stable, affordable housing moving forward. Homelessness prevention and support services will receive over $117 million to assist Chicagoans who are unhoused or on the brink of homelessness, and funds of $150 million in youth programs. The mental health funding for Chicago will increase by $52 million next year, totaling $86 million, and enabling the city to providers to care for over 60,000 Chicagoans. Okay, let's go to the Block Club Chicago recap of what went down this afternoon. Lightfoot's 2022 budget with more dollars for social services and direct cash payments secures key city approval. The final version of the budget includes more spending on mental health clinics and homelessness prevention, and to retain a $500 a month direct cash program for 5,000 low-income Chicagoans. Armed with $1.9 billion in federal relief funds, Lightfoot's proposed $16.7 billion budget avoids hefty tax increases, closes a $733 million deficit, and scraps a costly long-term borrowing plan approved last year. The spending portion of budget also spreads hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to struggling Chicagoans through social programs. But Lightfoot and members of City Council were locked in final negotiations this week to reach the 26-vote majority needed to pass the budget. The revenue side of the plan, supported by a property tax hike tied to inflation, was approved in split votes Thursday. Lightfoot's final proposal tracked to the left and included a few more wins for progressives to tout to constituents, like an additional $6 million investment in the city's 5 mental health clinics and $5 million to preserve of single-room occupancy buildings to help prevent homelessness. The City Council's Budget Committee passed 2 ordinances comprising the bulk of the budget in a 27-5 vote. Aldermans Marty Quinn of the 13th, Matt O'Shea of the 19th, Silvana Tabares of the 23rd, Nick Sposato of the 38th, and Brendan Riley of the 42nd voted no. This is a progressive budget. I have to be the first to say it, said Alderman Sophia King of the 4th, who serves as chair to the City Council Progressive Caucus. I appreciate that there is more work to do in getting this money out the door, but I appreciate the collaboration we had on this budget. Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa of the 35th, the chair of the 5-member Democratic Socialist Caucus, also endorsed the budget, praising the efforts of a coalition of progressive alderpeople and community groups that fought for the changes. Ramirez Rosa voted against Lightfoot's previous 2 budgets, but this version sailed through a committee hearing, showing the countless hours of work behind the scenes between aldermen, departments, mayoral staff working hard to move forward a budget that we believe will move forward the interests of our communities, the alderman said. He singled out the extra $6 million investment in the city's public mental health clinics. Progressive alderpeople and community groups had initially asked for $10 million. The investment would launch child and adolescent mental health services, expand evening hours at the clinics, and support 29 staff positions, Susie Park, the city's budget director, told the committee. I would imagine that more than 29 people are need. Well, these are staff positions. I don't know if that means support 29 staff positions. I don't know if that means 29 mental health caseworkers or staff positions running the clinics. I think they need more mental health counselors is what they need. The funding would not reopen. Okay, so here's what we were talking about earlier this week, which was the sore point of contention. The funding would not reopen shuttered mental health clinics, but Dr. Allison Arwady, Commissioner of the Department of Public Health, that's her title, said she would be certainly open to exploring stationing some of the city's mental health clinicians at off-site locations, including libraries. No, that's a fucking bad idea. Libraries are libraries. They're not mental health clinics, Dr. Arwady. I would respectfully disagree. The budget still includes $31.5 million in funding to launch a guaranteed basic income pilot program to provide 5,000 Chicagoans with $500 a month for 1 year. The plan was opposed by alder people, including some members of the Black Caucus who preferred the money was allocated to violence prevention, and more conservative members who sought strict regulations on who was eligible for the cash assistance. Of course, means testing, as usual. During the public comment portion of the meeting, Cherie Singleton Nobles, who received direct cash assistance through a separate program, urged the committee to retain the pilot program. Singleton Nobles, who owns a home-based daycare, said the money provided her family with hope. I was able to buy the replacement piece for the tub from my mom so she won't slip and fall, and also get a computer to continue my drive to be a published author, she said. It is desperately needed, and we need it so we can strive and move forward. The full city council is likely to take up the package of budget-related ordinances October 27th. In addition to the funding for mental health clinics and preservation of SROs, single resident occupancies, the changes include increased funding to expand broadband access in the city, funding to support 30 tree trimming crews citywide, a $10,000 boost in the animal care and control advertising budget. I didn't know that needed to be advertised. And the creation of a city council subcommittee to monitor how the city spends the federal relief funds provided through the American Recovery Plan. A new homeless outreach team will also be created inside the Department of Family and Support Services. I think that's a good idea for the creation of a city council subcommittee to monitor how the city spends the federal relief funds. And I personally hope it's chaired by more progressive alder people. In a statement after the vote, Lightfoot touted the 2022 budget as a once-in-a-generation investment that provides us with the opportunity to transform Chicago's future. I really, really hope so. I've been critical of Mayor Lightfoot in many other ways, but if this pandemic relief is able to be put to good use and improve a lot of the sorely needed relief that the city has been desperate for, let's cross our fingers and hope for the best. The amendments made today are a result of the dialogue that continued through this week with our council colleagues and with labor partners and represent our commitment to transparency, inclusion, and equity as we build a more prosperous Chicago together. All right. Well, with that said, what do some of you think? I'm doing the show solo tonight. And as you know, when I do the show solo, I love to include all of the comments in the live chat, as many as are relevant to what we're talking about. As far as this new budget, let's see here. Oh, there isn't a lot of back and forth on the budget. Although Andrew Golick says means testing is the mark of a conservative. Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, seriously. What's all this about buying a computer replacement, Mom, once yours slips and falls? What's all this about buying a computer replacement, Mom, once yours slips and falls? In a Gilda Radner voice. Are you talking about Rosanna Dana? I remember that from SNL. Okay, so E. Heller, good point. His problem with this is they're using pandemic relief funds to fill a future budget gap instead of using them now, which does show poor planning on the part of the mayor and the council. The money's actually there to enrich public high schools in America to Danish or whatever levels. Yeah. By the way, earlier this week, in regard to whether or not Chicago is broke or not, Thomas Tresser is going to be headlining a program called TIF 101 that I thought was this past Wednesday night when I got the invitation. And I put up a show icon because we were going to simulcast his presentation on TIF 101 that was coming from Facebook. And I didn't look closely enough at the details, which showed that TIF 101 is actually going to be in November. But we did get permission to simulcast it. And what Thomas Tresser is going to share in the TIF 101 presentation speaks directly to the fact that we're not broke and we could solve a lot of these problems without using all the pandemic money. So as we get closer to mid-November, I will put the show icon up for that. I want to thank Thomas Tresser for allowing us to simulcast that when it happens. I think it's going to be very, very eye-opening in regard to our city, how they manage money, and everything else. All right, so you're going to love this story. Ooh, boy. Here we go. This was tweeted the other night. Buckle up, Buttercup. Ben Bradley at WGN News. Did you guys hear about this? They serve and protect themselves. The Fraternal Order of Police is offering to pay suspended officers $500 to stand outside city college sites later this week where police entrance exams are being given to tell applicants if they get hired, City Hall won't have their back. Because, as you know, it's all about their back, not the citizens they're protecting. And you know this comes from Fraternal Order of Police leader John Catanzara, who's not a leader, he's a clown, who said he's going to run for mayor now because he was the court issued a gag order against him for rallying his troops to continue violating the vaccine mandate that the mayor's office put forth for public health workers because they are serving the public. Oh boy, let's go to the WGN broadcast because I want to share what they broadcast on this story before we talk about it. I'll bring this back into the stream. Where are we at here? Oh, add to the stream. There we go. All right, let's play this and then we'll talk about it. Wow.
Department is holding entry exams all over the city today, but union members may be there to greet them with a warning. Eric Rahm is live at Harold Washington College with more. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning to you. Sources telling WGN that the FOP is offering $500 to members who will stand outside city colleges where those entrance exams are being given all day long here to tell potential applicants that City Hall does not have their backs. This, of course, really just an extension of the fight between the FOP and the city over the vaccine mandate. Now, the Fraternal Order of Police says that 23 officers are in no pay status for failing to report their vaccination status to the city. The police department says that number is 21. The superintendent expects the percentage of officers' compliance to grow from the high 60s to 80% by the weekend. The union is telling its officers to hold the line. It says the city needs to take the mandate into collective bargaining. This all coming at a time when the department is losing a lot of officers. WGN Investigates found that Chicago is on pace to lose 1,000 officers this year to resignation and retirement, and it's having a hard time recruiting people to replace those officers. And this is all before the vaccine mandate really began to accelerate. That's the highest annual total of officers leaving the department since at least 2018. The FOP and the city will be back in court today as well. The FOP is asking a judge to suspend the city's vaccination policy, while the city wants to extend its restraining order on the FOP president's use of social media to discourage officers from complying with the vaccine mandate. Now, the FOP is also asking officers to donate $100 to those officers that are in that no pay status. The morning session for the entrance exams this morning starts at 8 o'clock, or actually the doors open at 8. The test starts at 8:30. We're live downtown. I'm Eric Run, WGN News.
Okay, so let's break this down. Okay, let's take this step by step. How many people out there think this is more about the Fraternal Order of Police just not believing that they are supposed to follow rules because of the Fraternal Order of Police, while they want to just exert their rules over everybody else? To be a police officer is to work. It's a public service position. It's a job. You take a job, you follow the rules. If you are in contact with the public all the time and your employer says, we're concerned about this public health crisis, you need to get vaccinated, not only to protect yourself, but to hopefully protect others. And although we know the vaccine doesn't work all the time, we know the Delta variant, it still provides a layer of protection. If you're a public health worker, hey, you don't like getting vaccinated if you're a police officer? Fine, quit. Go join the Department of Sanitation. I'm sure they've got openings. If you're that against following rules while you expect everybody to follow the rules that you enforce. I can't help but think that all of this is related to the what do you want to call it? The ego, the arrogance of John Carton-Sara as the Fraternal Order of Police union leader. And okay, so 23 officers have been suspended, which means there are vacancies in the police department to keep the public safe. And the Fraternal Order of Police is paying officers to go dissuade potential recruits from taking the exam to fill those vacancies to make the city safe. Who is this about? Is this about actual public safety? Or is it about the politics of the Fraternal Order of Police acting like, I'm sorry, a bunch of fucking thugs dictating that the city doesn't have their backs? The city's not doing enough for them. As a taxpayer, considering the fact we shell out millions of dollars each year to pay for lawsuits that criminal members of the Chicago Police Department aren't responsible for when they violate people's rights, I'd say the city's got your back, and more so. You just don't have they just don't have they just don't feel that they're respected enough. They don't feel that they need to be accountable, because somewhere along the line in Chicago and in many other cities, it seems that a lot of our law enforcement professionals feel that the job is all about them and not about reaching out and bridging the gap between law enforcement and the public, recognizing this is a partnership. It's not them against us. And that's all I get anytime I hear anything from that pig. And I'm not saying that using the colloquialism of people using that in the past to describe cops. Catanzaro looks like one. He's gross. And it's very, very alarming that the membership of CPD continued to elect him as the president of the Fraternal Order of Police. So this is a really, really alarming story that I think is disgusting. I don't think the police have any right to be paying suspended officers to go stand outside of city college sites while the city is desperately trying to find recruits that will actually follow the rules that are in place for a position of public service. The Fraternal Order of Police needs to understand they serve the citizens of Chicago. They serve the city of Chicago. We are not there to serve them. And that's all I got on that. What do some of you all think in the live chat? Let's see here. Defunding themselves. Quick, reallocate those funds to social services and mental health clinics. I'm all for that, E. Let's see here. We can just as easily have something going on that says Fraternal Order of Police does not have the back of the citizens. Yes. Yes. Maybe that's what we need to trend on social media. See, Fraternal Order of Police does not have the back of the citizens. True. True that. All right. Let's see here. Moving on to our next story. Oh, actually, let me go back really quickly to some of the social media on this that came from Ben Bradley's Twitter post. Patrick, PTB 2003. I've never seen an organization less interested in doing its actual job. Yep. Tammy Anderson at Tam 5'2". So cops are paying cops to discourage people from becoming cops. Mike Donahue, Mike Don 0279 7139, and then whining about being understaffed. Yeah. It seems to me the whole anti-vax thing presents a great opportunity to just fire the third of the CPD that are bad attitude, mutinous, and prone to flagrant disobedience anyway. I'm sure there's strong overlap with the police who made last summer worse than it had to be. That was from Tony Dubrick at Tony Din, Salem, Illinois. And yeah, right. Hey, I remember when the police were standing outside city colleges in the 60s. The kids were protesting the Vietnam War, and law and order folks were upset. This is so shameful. Just do what's asked of you. It's not that hard. You're a public employee and paid by the government. If they tell you to do something, do it. I do when my boss does. And on that note, hey, FOP John Catanzaro, if you don't want to follow what your boss tells you to do, get the fuck out. All right, moving on. Speaking of getting the fuck out, do you like the way I transition these? I try, people. I really do. Got some news that I'm gonna parse with this.
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
Sure he does. He always likes to say he takes responsibility. while doing everything to demonstrate that he doesn't. All right, so we know that this past Wednesday, Jonathan Todd and I talked about this last Friday night. Rahm Emanuel's appointment to be ambassador to Japan was held on the day of Laquan McDonald's shooting. Remember Laquan McDonald? Everybody knows Laquan McDonald here in Chicago. He's the youth who was executed in the streets by Chicago police officers. Rahm covered it up before the election because he didn't want the bad press to affect his chances of winning re-election. It came out later with Freedom of Information Act demands. The police videos, Rahm was shamed, and a lot of people believe the reason Rahm didn't run for re-election is there was no recovering from the discoveries that he was probably complicit in covering up what actually happened in the police video and everything else from that fallout. So Rahm did have his confirmation hearing this Wednesday, and this comes to us from Mark Conkle at Patch. Rahm Emanuel shows he's no ambassador of truth at Senate hearing. What else is new? How could anyone tell if former Mayor Rahm Emanuel wasn't telling the whole truth during Wednesday's U.S. Senate hearing in advance of a confirmation vote on his pending appointment as America's ambassador to Japan? Well, his lips were moving. In my reporting experience, that's a keen indicator that Rahm might be fibbing at least a little, regardless of the topic. Take, for instance, Emanuel's answers during the 9-minute grilling Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat of Oregon, gave him about his involvement in efforts to cover up video showing a Chicago police officer shooting Laquan McDonald with every bullet in his gun, 16 shots, until the black teenager was dead 7 years ago to the day. Merkley asked Emanuel if he learned of details of Laquan's murder when his administration in April 2015 negotiated a $5 million settlement complete with a non-disclosure agreement with the family. Ooh, the city doesn't do anything for the police department, right? Why isn't that coming out of the officer's pension? Any officer that was related to the cover-up of that murder. Why are we paying for it? Why aren't police officers carrying insurance the way that doctors carry malpractice insurance? Huh? As I said, when the video became public in November of 2015 is when I learned what happened and the consequences of what happened that night. Emanuel said under oath. Does anybody believe that chicken shit? Rahm Emanuel, control freak of Chicago, didn't find out about it until the video became public in November of 2015, after his re-election. Funny thing is, journalist Jamie Calvin broke the news that Laquan had been shot 16 times in February of 2015. Could Emanuel be lying under oath? Emanuel's then corporation counsel, Stephen Patton, testified before a city council committee in April 2015, shortly after the mayor won re-election, and confirmed that Laquan had been shot 16 times while Patton made his pitch to win aldermanic approval for a $5 million settlement with the late teenager's family before a lawsuit was filed. And the Democrats want to confirm Emanuel's appointment to ambassador. They want to reward him for this kind of odious behavior. Or Biden does, at least, by nominating him. On Wednesday, Emanuel told the U.S. Senate committee considering his appointment as ambassador that the city council approved the settlement 50-0, which isn't technically true. A 17-member committee forwarded the settlement proposal to a full council for a vote. The $5 million payout was lumped together with two other police misconduct settlements listed as, quote, item 5, unquote, which passed 47-0 without any discussion. In fact, the settlement was approved based on a previous finance committee vote on another topic. Plenty of people believe that Patton snowed aldermen to get approval of the settlement deal, which included a provision that prohibited Laquan's family from making the video of the teen's death public, and therein lies the cover-up. In December, after a judge forced Emanuel to release the video, Alderman Howard Brookins, who voted to approve the settlement, said he believed Emanuel's administration purposely misled the city council committee to believe City Hall wasn't allowed to release video of Laquan's murder. That's a cover-up. That's a crime. Nobody who didn't live through City Hall's con job on Laquan's murder, particularly a senator from Oregon under a strict time limit, was going to press hard enough to get Emanuel to break from his script of half-truths. He even said, after a myriad of investigations by the city inspector general and a special prosecutor, that no one concluded he or anyone in his office did anything improper. That's why this guy keeps failing upward. He takes responsibility, but he will not take responsibility, because he will then parse it with, but we didn't do anything improper. I take responsibility, but we didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Well, there's a reason for that. Neither the feds nor the quote-unquote independent police watchdog nor the state's top prosecutor, Attorney General Kwame Raoul, probed the way Patton handled the $5 million payout that coincidentally got quietly negotiated while Emanuel campaigned for a second term. Every investigation centered on the actions of the police department, even the U.S. Justice Department's probe that found a police legacy of corruption and abuse, without pointing a watchdog's investigative sniffer in the direction of Emanuel's administration. Before Merkley's allotted time to question Emanuel expired Wednesday, the Oregon Democrat mentioned a letter from Chicago public officials calling for the Senate to reject the former mayor's appointment and express disbelief that Emanuel was actually clueless about details of Laquan's murder and efforts to keep the video of the teen's death secret for as long as the former mayor claims. Because all of these things happened, the family requested the video. The city attorney reached out proactively because there was a lawsuit to ask for a settlement. The settlement was approved in a less than 1 minute meeting with no public discussion. It seems hard to believe that all those things happened and yet you were never briefed on the details of the situation when you were leading the city, Merkley said. In typical Emanuel fashion, he dodged the senator's assertion by reminding the Senate committee that some black city officials, alderpersons Jason Irvin, Michael Scott Jr., Greg Mitchell, Anthony Beal, Michelle Harris, Stephanie Coleman, Walter Burnett, Emma Mitz, and Brookins, happened to think he'd be an excellent ambassador to Japan. Since you brought up aldermanic letters, as you see here, the leadership of the Chicago City Council Black Caucus has signed a letter in support of my nomination. Those are members that worked with me, Emanuel said. And here is the stinger. What Rahm didn't mention, though, is that in 2018, he showered 8 of the aldermen with $20,000 campaign donations, each as he left office without giving voters a chance to oust him. I'd say that's an insurance policy. Those donations were an insurance policy. For when the moment came that Rahm was going to fail upward, all of those aldermen with the $20,000 campaign donations would step forward and sign a letter in his support so Rahm can continue to fail upward. Then Emanuel seemed to blame, America's criminal justice system and provisions in police union contracts and state laws that allowed his administration the means to keep video of Laquan's murder quiet until after he won the re-election. It doesn't take away from the fact that all those are not technicalities. This is a tragedy that happened, he said. No city of any size has not confronted the gulf and the gap that exists between police practices and the oversight and accountability. I made efforts of them. They missed the mark because they totally missed how deep that distrust is, how broken the system is we all relied on. But I take responsibility. But I'm just going to blame everybody else when I take the responsibility. If this guy wanted to take any responsibility or accountability, he'd be spending the rest of his miserable days in a Buddhist temple lamenting over what a rotten human being he is what he would be doing. But Rahm feels he's entitled to be the ambassador to Japan. While he offers all these half-baked chicken shit excuses, deflecting from what his responsibilities were as mayor. Conkle concludes, for me, Emanuel's evasive testimony, a spattering of non-answers, half-truths, and omitted details is the same stuff that turned Chicago aldermen into unwitting co-conspirators in the effort to keep video of Laquan's murder from public view. The Rahm con job continues. Will senators fall for it like a rubber stamp city council? Do they even care? Mark Conkle is the recipient of the 2011 Pulitzer Prize for local reporting, wrote and produced the Peabody Award-winning series Time, the Khalif Browder story. He was a producer, writer, and narrator for the Chicagoland docuseries on CNN and a consulting producer for the Showtime documentary 16 Shots. Well, I don't think anything's going to change there. I think Emanuel's going to get the position. He was a big fundraiser for the Democratic Party. When he pissed people off in Washington, acting as Obama's chief of staff, quite naturally, they gave him our city. And when he fucked up here, now after he's been rehabilitated on the national circuit, even though everybody in Chicago knows what a piece of shit he is, he's going to fail upward into the ambassadorship of Japan. It's Chicago town, everybody. Let's look at some of your comments in the live chat. Good point, Andrew Golick. It's a question we all ask ourselves. Why, with this cover-up and Emmanuel's involvement with Obama, why people still think Obama is a good guy? Because remember, Obama and Rahm were best buddies, big buddies, until suddenly Rahm became, I think, kind of a liability in Washington for Obama, which is, people didn't like him as chief of staff. And he ruffled a lot of feathers there. So, they shuffled him. Their benefit of getting rid of him was our curse, having him become mayor of Chicago. E. Heller, via John Hudson. Emanuel told senators he had the support of the family of slain teenager Laquan McDonald in the form of a letter from an uncle. Okay. I see something just came through my Slack from E. Heller. Let me check here real quickly. Let me copy this and put it up on screen, and we will review it. All right, let me put this up on screen now. And I'm going to read as we look at this, because I'm just discovering it. E. Heller shared it with me. Emanuel touts support among black leaders ahead of confirmation hearing for Ambassador Job, but senators have questions. The charm offensive seeks to combat calls by progressive House members to reject his nomination over his role in the police killing of Chicago teenager Laquan McDonald, which we just covered. So apparently he was touting his support among black organizations in closed-door meetings with lawmakers ahead of his confirmation hearing. The charm offensive by Emanuel, a former congressman and ex-chief of staff to President Barack Obama, seeks to combat calls by progressive House members to reject his nomination over his role in the police killing of Chicago teenager Laquan McDonald. Okay, we've been over all this. But yeah, it's everything's behind closed doors with Rahm Emanuel. All right, so here's the juicy part. In response to a request for comment on Monday night, an administration official provided a copy of the September 11th letter signed by Reverend Martin Hunter, a pastor at Grace Memorial Baptist Church and McDonald's great uncle, and addressed to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which will consider Emanuel's nomination. An administration official noted the letter was provided to the committee's chairman by Hunter, but was not in Emanuel's possession. I realize that my position on this nomination might come as a surprise to some, Hunter wrote. I may even be attacked for speaking up. However, I am a man of faith. I believe in what the scripture says about righteous judgment and looking into a person's heart. I have taken the time to get to know Rahm Emanuel. We have listened to each other, truly heard each other. I understand the character of the man, and that is why I support this nomination. Can someone get a copy of Reverend Hunter's bank deposit statements and see if maybe looking into Rahm's heart was also part and parcel with Rahm looking into his bank account? But Hunter, when reached by the Washington Post earlier in the day on Monday, indicated Emanuel does not have the support of everyone in the McDonald family at the moment. Hunter said in an interview he would provide further comment once the family was in agreement. I talked with my family and we decided just to wait and see, Hunter told the Washington Post. I don't want to get in the heat of a lot of it right now. I just want to stay out of it and let the dust settle. Maybe you should have thought of that before you opened your mouth on Capitol Hill, Reverend Hunter. Emanuel did not respond to the Post's request for comment. Emanuel also touted support from the Chicago Urban League, blah, 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 blah. This guy is just like a fucking used car salesman. He has no self-awareness. Maybe he does have self-awareness. I don't think he does, in realizing that there's no reason he should be rewarded. And he needs like a long-term timeout from everything. Everything. So, E. Heller, thanks for that article. Let's go back to the live chat. Let's see here. We're reading here. Oh, I can take that one down. Would there ever be a single dick in Congress over time not fully owned? Think of the work of John Perkins per Bernie now. Yeah. Well, if he got the ambassador of Japan, maybe we can hope the 9-digit midget becomes the 8-digit midget or fewer. Yeah, we can only hope, Andrew. Lastly, True Democracy Now. Org says it all. They are awful people as well, but I also knew they were. It definitely solidifies things, though. Yeah. All right. Well, let me bring it home with our last story, which, as you all know, I like to do. I like to try to finish things on a positive note. Close with what we call the feel-good story. And our feel-good story tonight is this, and it's not necessarily a story, more of information that many of you who might still be suffering economically from the pandemic might have an opportunity to recover some relief from the city. They have announced Chai Biz Strong and Outdoor Dining Grants programs. This is for Chicago businesses and outdoor dining establishments. October 22nd, which is today, the Chai Biz Strong Grants Program and Outdoor Dining Grants Program application open and will close on Friday, November 12th at 11:59 p.m. The City of Chicago will be hosting informational webinars to assist applicants in preparing for the application on for-profit businesses, nonprofit organizations, Spanish for-profit organizations, Spanish for nonprofit organizations, Mandarin for-profit nonprofit. There are webinars linked at this page that is also in our show notes. So, what is this all about? I'll tell you. The City of Chicago has worked tirelessly to ensure that our small businesses and nonprofit community survives the unprecedented COVID-19 crisis. Under Mayor Lightfoot's leadership, the city has delivered a series of emergency measures to provide critical financial relief, remove unnecessary burdens, and keep workers safe through a once-in-a-century crisis. Now, with the end of the pandemic in sight, our focus must shift from survival to recovery. We've listened to Chicago's business and civic community, and we know that the strength of our recovery will depend upon the speed with which our local businesses and nonprofit organizations are able to start up, expand, and provide quality jobs and services. Mayor Lightfoot's Chai Biz Strong initiative rises to the occasion demanded by an unprecedented crisis with a bold plan to jumpstart growth and build a recovery that is rapid, equitable, and enduring. The Chai Biz Strong initiative that passed in June of 2021 included an announcement of a $10 million in grants for small businesses and nonprofit organizations. Given the continued needs of the small businesses and nonprofit community, the total pool of funds has been expanded to $22 million. The City of Chicago is proud to announce the Chai Biz Strong Grants program targeted towards Chicago small businesses and nonprofit organizations. To help bars and restaurants, the City of Chicago is also launching a $2 million outdoor dining grant program. Now, remember, grants don't have to be paid back. So if you're a small business that qualifies, this can help you with your operating expenses and hopefully lost business. Program overview, Chai Biz Strong Grant Program. And you know what? I'm also going to put this in the chat so you guys can find it quickly and click through. Chai Biz Strong Grant Program is $5,000 to $10,000 grants to small businesses and nonprofit organizations that have experienced lost revenue or increased costs due to COVID-19 to support business nonprofit expenses. Outdoor Dining Grant Program, $5,000 grants for small restaurants and bars to support the purchase of outdoor furniture, pandemic-related signage, and personal protective equipment. Eligible organizations must have under $3 million in revenue, and organizations that have not received prior government pandemic relief will be prioritized. Grants will be administered by Allies for Community Business, formerly Action Chicago. Applicants will be selected by criteria and lottery. How soon you submit your application will have no impact on your likelihood to receive an award as long as it is submitted prior to the deadline. So there it is, everybody. Check it out. I wish everybody good luck that does apply for this. A lot of people still needing relief during this unprecedented public health crisis. And I would only hope that many of you in the group who might have small businesses or in the live chat would take advantage. Use the link I just put in the live chat. Apply. Give it a shot. Doesn't hurt. Going back into the live chat. Let's see here. Just kind of catching up with what everybody's saying. Well, nothing completely relevant to the story. It's just a lot of back and forth chatter, which is fine too. So as we come to the close of the program, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed to the channel. Make sure if you haven't that you do down below. Share the station with everybody as far and wide as you can on social media so we can build our subscriber base. Like the videos. What do we have? Oh, yeah. So next week, we're going to have a special Haunted Chicago Halloween broadcast that I'm very excited about because we are going to have some special guests join the show as we navigate the landscape of haunted Chicago legends and stories. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a nice diversion from the regular stuff that we cover in our Tuesday and Friday night broadcasts. I hope you'll all mark your calendars. We've got it down below on the channel. Chicago Corner, you can click on the icon for Haunted Chicago. Maybe put it on your calendar. Join us then. We're definitely going to want to involve everybody from the live chat as we talk about Chicago's haunted legends with special guests and more. But until next Friday, I will return to you this Tuesday for the Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner. In the meantime, as we go into this weekend, please be careful, be safe, watch out for each other, be vigilant, and as always, you know, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a safe weekend.